When my fiancé was bringing his twin brother back to the country, they were involved in a car accident. I rushed to the hospital and saw him with only minor scrapes, and I joyfully threw myself into his arms. "Alexander, I'm so glad you're okay." Benjamin quickly stepped back and pointed to the man who looked exactly like him, saying, "You've got the wrong person, he's Alexander." I stood there in shock. Alexander quickly smiled and hugged me. "Emily, I'm your fiancé. He's my younger brother, Benjamin." I nodded calmly. "Alexander, let's go home." The motion sensor light in the entrance lit up, and I led him back to the home we had shared for several years. Benjamin held his forehead wrapped in bandages, frowning, his voice weak. "Honey, the doctor said I have a concussion." I can't remember much, seeing how unfamiliar he was with the layout. I pretended not to notice and nodded in agreement. I helped him into the bedroom to rest, prepared dinner, and went to call him. But the sound of voices coming from the door made me shiver. "Benjamin, please, for brother's sake, pretend to be me for a week. We'll switch back later. Aren't you afraid she'll find out the truth? If she does, just tell her to come back. She loves me so much, she wouldn't want to leave me. Olivia is back in the country, and I don't want to leave any regrets before we get married. It seems you're still obsessed with Olivia. Stop talking nonsense. During this time, you're with Emily. Don't you dare lay a finger on her." I turned and left, intentionally making some noise in the living room. Benjamin quickly turned off his phone and stepped out of the bedroom. "Honey, what happened?" I accidentally broke the spoon. "It's okay, I'll handle it." "Are you hurt anywhere?" He immediately bent down to clean up the broken pieces on the floor. "No, I'll just cook some noodles." Benjamin gently embraced me, saying, "As long as it's made by my baby, anything is fine." He removed my apron and kissed my forehead lightly. My eyes widened in shock. I had clearly heard Alexander warn him not to touch me. Moreover, ever since I met Benjamin, he had despised me from the bottom of his heart. Just as he was about to kiss my lips, I hurriedly dodged him. He paused, confused, and asked, "Baby, what's wrong?" "Nothing, I'm just a little tired." Benjamin smiled. "Yeah, it's only a week until our wedding. I'm really looking forward to it." The next day, Benjamin took me to a birthday party. When we arrived, the atmosphere was already lively. As soon as we entered the private room, I saw Alexander and Olivia. "Emily, long time no see. Do you still remember your old classmate?" Olivia and Alexander were holding hands and smiled at me. Of course, my best friend. I calmly took Benjamin's arm and sat down, not looking at Alexander, who was staring at me. Olivia used to be my college roommate and later became my best friend. But now she was being affectionate with my fiancé in front of me. Alexander also seemed to enjoy his new role, being intimate with her in front of me. I laughed sarcastically. If that's the case, then I won't hold back either. After a few rounds of drinks, one of the games involved Alexander and Olivia eating the same piece of cotton candy. When there was only a little left, it was suddenly snatched away, and their cheeks pressed tightly against each other, their noses touching. "Kiss him. Kiss him." Amidst the cheers, Alexander couldn't help but glance at me. I immediately returned his smile and joined in the cheers. "Kiss him. Kiss him." Alexander's eyes darkened, and he turned his head to kiss Olivia deeply. After the kiss, Olivia shyly snuggled into his arms, and with a subtle glance, she seemed to glance at me triumphantly. I remained calm and ignored her. The next moment, the bottle suddenly pointed at me, and the punishment was to choose a member of the opposite sex to do 30 push-ups and kiss them. All eyes turned to me. Alexander instinctively avoided my gaze. Benjamin beside me tensed his back. I smiled and looked around, saying, "Of course, I'll choose my fiancé." Saying that, I turned to Benjamin and smiled. "Let's start." But I couldn't do push-ups, so I could only let my dear one do it. I noticed Benjamin's tense back relax. He stared at me for a moment, before lifting the corners of his mouth and slowly standing up. I took his hand and led him to an open area in the private room. Lying down on the carpet, "Darling, go for it, of course." Benjamin smiled, placed his hands on either side of my shoulders, and slowly leaned in, under everyone's gaze. I gently tilted my head and kissed his lips directly. "Wow," gasps echoed through the room. But as the gasps died down, the room fell silent once more. Benjamin's body kept moving closer and then pulling back, each time pressing his lips firmly against mine and grinding them. After it ended, I noticed that Alexander was surrounded by a low, oppressive aura. Perhaps that was why everyone else had fallen silent. I suddenly felt a bit absurd. He was the one who pushed me toward another man. He was the one who kissed another woman in front of me. So why was he upset now that I had done the same? I smiled and tilted my head, feigning confusion as I looked at everyone else. It was just a game penalty. Why weren't they saying anything? Emily and her fiancé really have a good relationship. Olivia suddenly exclaimed, breaking the unprecedented silence. Alexander's face darkened upon hearing this, and his knuckles turned white as he gripped the rim of his glass. "All right, you guys go ahead. I'm going to the restroom." I didn't respond, but when I returned, I heard voices at the corner. "Benjamin, I warned you not to cross the line." Alexander spoke coldly. "It's just a game." Benjamin's voice carried a hint of a smile. "Now I'm her fiancé. Does she want someone else to take the punishment? Or maybe you." Her brother-in-law, Alexander, fell silent for a moment. "Fine, but you must uphold the final boundary. She'll soon be your sister-in-law. Though you probably don't truly care for her, it's best to avoid overly intimate gestures. It would be uncomfortable for you, and I wouldn't feel right either." "You really understand me." Benjamin's tone carried a hint of mockery. I clenched my fists tightly for a moment before finally letting out a smile. "Alexander, Benjamin isn't what you think he is." After returning home, Benjamin suddenly grabbed my wrist and pressed it against the wall. Before I could react, he leaned in and kissed me, ignoring my struggles. Our lips and teeth intertwined until our breathing became chaotic before he finally let go. "Baby, there are only 6 days left until we get married." He traced his fingertips over my flushed cheeks, his gaze intense. I stared blankly at Benjamin. The man before me seemed completely different from the one in my memories. He had played the role of someone who despised me in front of Alexander. Yet now he enveloped me in almost obsessive tenderness, eagerly anticipating our wedding. We were worlds apart, but Alexander gradually dispelled all my doubts. He introduced me to his circle, and I met many wealthy second-generation individuals. However, the fact that Benjamin despised me was an open secret among everyone. He had always looked down on my relationship with Alexander. In the past, whenever I saw him, I would try to avoid him. But ever since Alexander pushed me toward him, he has repeatedly crossed boundaries. Could it be that he is seeking revenge on Alexander? The next day, I was sitting in front of my easel, revising my sketch. Chalk dust fell onto the edges of the paper. Benjamin knocked on the door and entered, holding a plate of fruit. "You've been cooped up all day. There's an auction tonight. Let me take you." "Sure." I nodded with a smile. After arriving at the auction house by car, the attendant led us into the private room, but as the door opened, we saw Olivia was sitting astride Alexander's lap, her skirt hiked up above her knees. Alexander held her tightly in his arms and kissed her deeply, his hands roaming over her body. The smile on his lips hadn't faded yet when our eyes met. Alexander's face froze for a moment, but it passed quickly. "Emily," Olivia snuggled closer to Alexander, looking surprised. "You're here for the auction too. But how did you end up in our private room?" The auction house manager hurried over, sweat beading on his forehead. "Mr. Anderson, I'm so sorry. It was our mistake. We'll arrange a new private room for you immediately." Olivia interrupted, staring at me. "We all know each other. Emily won't mind, will she?" Alexander even said he'd bid on a ruby ring for me. "We can take a look together." The atmosphere in the box was a bit awkward. Alexander leaned back on the sofa, his gaze darting between me and Benjamin before suddenly smiling. "Come sit down. We're all family. Emily isn't an outsider." Looking at Alexander's calm demeanor, I couldn't help but think back to 3 years ago when I found Olivia's earring in Alexander's car. He had also brushed it off casually, saying, "Olivia is your best friend. Don't make a big deal out of it." Perhaps they had already started something back then. If that was the case, why lie to me? Why marry me? Beside me, Benjamin gently wrapped his arm around my shoulder, pulling me back to reality. He held me close and sat down on the farthest sofa from them. Throughout the auction, every time Olivia glanced at an item for a moment longer, Alexander would bid on it. In the box, Olivia kept letting out little gasps of surprise, kissing Alexander's cheek over and over. "Alexander is the best to me." Her gaze swept past Benjamin and landed directly on me, filled with a sense of pride. Once upon a time, Alexander had also spent a fortune on me, whispering promises in my ear. Emily, everything you desire, I will make it happen for you. But now it's all a joke. Finally, the auction reached the last item. A pair of wedding rings, 1 million. Benjamin's voice suddenly rang out. Everyone froze. Olivia's smile froze on her face, and Alexander looked at him in confusion. I'll bid on these rings for Emily. They'll be our wedding rings. Alexander frowned and stared at Benjamin for a long time before speaking softly. If Emily likes them, then they're yours. The auction ended and Olivia pulled me toward the restroom. There were too many people, so I turned around and headed back to the VIP box. But at the door, I overheard their conversation. You and Olivia are having so much fun. I bet you haven't had this much fun with Emily in a long time. Right? Benjamin spoke. Alexander's tone was lazy and satisfied. You're right, Olivia and I have been feeling like we've rediscovered the freshness we had with Emily back then. She's more open than Emily and considerate in every way. Being with her is so much more comfortable. Since that's the case, why not go with the flow? Benjamin paused, his words seeming to hold a hidden meaning. Olivia seems more suited to you than Emily. Besides, you've always complained about Emily's stubborn nature and how she often annoys you. Haven't you? Benjamin, the years we've spent together with Emily aren't something that can be severed so easily. Alexander sighed. But Olivia said she doesn't care about a formal relationship. She just wants to enjoy these happy days. After returning home, Benjamin suddenly pressed me against the door and leaned in, his lips brushing against mine. After a long moment, he stepped back slightly, his fingertips gently tracing the redness on my lips. He looked down at me seriously. You're the best, Emily. You don't need to compare yourself to anyone else. These words seemed to be a response to Alexander's earlier comparison between me and Olivia. I stared at him in shock. Those eyes, which had been covered in a thin layer of ice, now reflected a heat I had never seen before. How did he know? How could he understand me so well? In the few days we'd spent together, he not only knew the little habits that even Alexander hadn't noticed, but he also always noticed my emotions. He had taken another step forward. When he picked me up and carried me into the room, I didn't push him away. In my life, there had only ever been one man, Alexander, the boy who had carried me through a downpour for 3 blocks to buy medicine, the man who had stood outside in sub-zero temperatures for an entire night to convince his parents. On the night my grandmother was buried, he said he'd always be there. Those promises have long since lost their meaning over the years. Since the anchors of the past have already loosened, maybe it's time to try grabbing onto a new lifeline. Maybe it's time to try a new man. The next day, we all went hiking together. When it came time to divide the tents, Alexander's face darkened. He called Benjamin over. Are you two really going to share a tent? We must stay separate. It's just one tent. Benjamin spoke casually. You know I find her repulsive. What are you worried about? I suddenly spoke up, and Alexander, with a dark expression, swallowed the words on his lips. Benjamin looked at him with a smirk. The next morning, Alexander, with a grim expression, dragged Benjamin to an empty corner again. I leaned against a tree and listened as he angrily demanded, Did you two have a relationship last night? What? Benjamin snorted. You didn't even bother to enjoy yourself with your sweet girlfriend, yet you have the time to eavesdrop. Alexander, when did you become so idle? Don't play dumb with me, Alexander growled. I don't need you to act anymore. Let's switch back. HMPH, do you really think we can just switch back like that? How are you going to explain everything that's happened lately? Alexander's face turned from green to white. Besides, what about Olivia after we switch back? Can you really handle both of them at the same time? Benjamin nodded toward the tent. Olivia is right there. You said you only feel comfortable with her. Didn't you? Olivia and I agreed from the start that this was just a fling. Alexander glared at Benjamin. I never intended to give up Emily. She only loves me. As long as I swear and apologize, she will definitely forgive me. Alexander gritted his teeth. But what about you? You keep saying you hate her, yet you took advantage of her when she was vulnerable. Benjamin, do you think you deserve to be called my brother? When did I ever say I hated her? Benjamin raised an eyebrow, his tone suddenly turning cold and hard. It's you. It's Olivia. It's your entire circle that assumes I hate her. He tugged at his tie, revealing a suggestive red mark on his collarbone. Who was it who pushed her into my arms in the first place? Alexander clenched his fists so tightly they cracked. I must be blind. You've had dirty thoughts about Emily all along and deliberately used this situation to steal her away from me. Situation, Benjamin chuckled. Brother, the first move in this game was made by you yourself. Morning light filtered through the leaves, casting a shadow on Alexander's gloomy face. Benjamin straightened his slightly disheveled collar. Since Emily and I have already come this far, and you think Olivia is suitable, why not make the best of a bad situation? I'll marry Emily, and you can pursue your new flame. Wouldn't that be a happy ending for everyone? A happy ending, Alexander's eyes flashed with obsession. I don't care if she's been with you. It will only make her need my forgiveness more and make it easier for her to forgive me. I'll go confront Olivia right now and then beg Emily for forgiveness. He turned abruptly, his tone resolute. I'll see whose side Emily's heart truly lies on. I idly pinched a withered leaf, glancing out of the corner of my eye at the figure in the distance. Olivia's knuckles were white as she clutched her phone, rushing toward the camp. In the afternoon, the men were packing up the tents. Olivia suddenly grabbed my wrist. Emily, the wildflowers are in full bloom over there. Let's go pick some to make a wreath. I looked at her deeply and smiled as I followed her, in the wildflower field. Olivia suddenly shoved her phone into my palm. Listen to this. I recorded it secretly. I played the recording. It was the two brothers discussing switching identities. What do you mean? I pushed the phone back. She stomped her foot and laughed coldly. What do you mean Alexander told Benjamin to pretend to be your fiancé? He just got tired of you, so he pushed you to Benjamin to marry him so he could be with me. Even Benjamin is helping him deceive you. Everyone is treating you like a fool. As your best friend, I'm just trying to warn you. Olivia blurted out the truth at breakneck speed, her eyes brimming with excitement at the spectacle. But when she looked up, she met my unflinching gaze. She froze in place. I plucked a wildflower and pinned it in her hair, smiling as I asked, So, does Benjamin not treat me well now? He's no worse than Alexander. Olivia's pupils contracted sharply, as if she were seeing me for the first time. You knew all along and you're still so calm. She suddenly thought of something. You didn't know from the beginning that they had switched identities. I crushed the petals, the juice spreading across my fingertips. You saw through me. I leaned close to her ear and whispered, Best friends don't tell secrets, you know, you. She stumbled back 2 steps. You know, and you're still with Benjamin. Emily, you've been hiding it so well. She turned and ran toward the camp. I'm going to tell Alexander, tell everyone you're acting. I casually plucked a wildflower and spoke nonchalantly. Are you sure you want to burst this bubble? Seeing her pause, I continued. This morning he said he wanted to come clean with you. Didn't you hear him clearly? Olivia's expression changed, but she immediately sneered. If I tell Alexander that you know everything and that you deliberately had a relationship with Benjamin, do you think he'll hate you? Will he favor me more? Oh, then I'll have to maintain my image. I tilted my head and played with the wildflower by my temple, letting a few tears fall. I said I had been deeply hurt by Alexander and had mistaken Benjamin for a lifeline. Facing her suddenly changing expression, I laughed softly. You think he believes my pitiful act, or does he believe you, the third party meddling in his best friend's relationship? Didn't you hear him just now? He doesn't mind if I have a relationship with Benjamin. She stumbled backward, her eyes filled with terror. Emily, you weren't like this before. What was I like before? I laughed lightly. Were you the naive innocent you thought you were? Or the Alexander ideal you spent so much effort imitating, seeing her face turn pale? I decided to be blunt. You've been deliberately getting close to me since freshman year. Wasn't it all to get close to Alexander through me? Now you're accusing me. I truly love Alexander. Olivia raised her voice. You know he pushed you toward Benjamin, yet you still slept with him. You don't love Alexander at all. Don't love him. I recalled Benjamin's intense heat from last night and suddenly felt that all my years of effort were ridiculous. I stayed by his side as he went from a troubled teenager to the heir of the Anderson group. Where were you? When his parents humiliated me, where were you? I leaned in close. And you? If Alexander lost his fortune, would you still dare to say you love him? Olivia trembled, pointing at me. Emily, you're so calculating, so terrifying. Terrifying. I straightened up, tidied her disheveled hair, and said, The man who pushes his fiancé into his brother's arms isn't scary. The woman who sleeps with her best friend's fiancé isn't scary. But I, the victim, am scary looking at her pale face. I brushed away non-existent dust and said, "Rest assured, Benjamin and Alexander. I'll only hold on to one of them. As for you, I don't even bother competing with you for anything. Alexander is already completely tainted in my eyes. If you don't mind, you can fight for him with your own abilities." Olivia suddenly looked up, her pupils dilating. "You only care about money, whether it's Alexander or Benjamin. It doesn't matter. As long as they can give you a wealthy life, anyone will do. I once fed my heart to a dog." My tone grew impatient when Alexander pushed me toward Benjamin. Did he ever think about how I might feel? When Benjamin knew the truth yet helped deceive me, did he ever feel the slightest mercy? But Benjamin didn't treat me like a fool. At least in my eyes, he's still pure. If he's willing to give me what I want, I'll naturally treat him with sincerity. Olivia stared at me and suddenly laughed. "Do you think Benjamin is some kind of saint? Everyone in this circle knows he's the most cunning. Be careful not to end up being the one he devours until there's nothing left. You've disappointed me. Benjamin was looking forward to our wedding in 3 days. We've both experienced hardship." I waved the wildflowers in my hand. "You climbed the social ladder with cunning, and I traded my skills for stability. We're just using our own abilities. So Olivia uses me as a stepping stone. What can I do? But if she wants to harm me," suddenly, the crisp sound of a branch snapping echoed from the distance. Out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw a glimpse of a sleeve. But when I turned, there was only the rustling of leaves. When Olivia and I returned to the camp with the wildflowers, Benjamin was watching from a distance. He walked up to me, took the flowers naturally, and smiled. "I was worried sick looking for you. If you really like it here, we can come more often." Before he finished speaking, he had already wrapped his arms around my waist. Olivia stood there, her eyes filled with confusion. Why would this man be so infatuated with me? Just then, Alexander also hurried over. He completely ignored Olivia, fixating his gaze on Benjamin with an icy stare. I looked at Alexander with my usual confusion. But he suddenly stepped forward. "Emily, there's an orchard over there. You always said you wanted to try picking fruit again. I'll take you." "I don't remember that." I looked up at Benjamin and blinked. "Fiancé, did I ever say that you did?" His voice was filled with laughter. "Go make a flower crown first. We'll go later." Alexander stood frozen in place. Behind me, Olivia's jealous gaze felt like it could pierce me through. We sat on the ground weaving flower crowns. I felt Benjamin's gaze beside me, filled with curiosity, as if he were trying to confirm something. I looked up at him, and he was as usual, gentle and determined. I smiled and pinned a wildflower behind his ear. He leaned down slightly, letting me do as I pleased, then placed the flower crown on my head, his fingers gently tracing my cheek. From that night on, he always managed to stir up some flirtatious tension without meaning to. The weather had cooled a bit, so we went to the orchard. A few young men were already up in the trees picking fruit, while Alexander and Olivia were still choosing which trees to pick from. Olivia was saying, "Which tree should we pick?" Alexander replied absent-mindedly. Until he saw us, he said, "Emily, I need to talk to you." Olivia looked up suddenly, afraid that Alexander was going to confront her. She happened to see us coming and hurriedly said, "Emily, you're finally here." Benjamin and I walked over. "What fruits do you want to pick?" I asked with a smile. Benjamin was talking quietly with the fruit farmer, asking which fruits were the sweetest and where the trees were located. He had just picked a few ginseng fruits with me when he heard that something had happened over where Alexander was. "Alexander, be careful, Olivia." It turned out that a snake was climbing up the fruit tree and was about to bite Alexander when he wasn't paying attention. Olivia, disregarding her own safety, grabbed the snake. She was bitten and fell heavily from the tree. Alexander quickly climbed down the tree, carried her down the mountain, and rushed her to the hospital. The fruit farmer muttered under his breath, "I just don't understand why she had to grab that snake. It was just a non-venomous snake. Even if she was bitten, it wouldn't have been that serious. It's better than Olivia grabbing it with her bare hands and falling off the tree. If something had happened, it would have been his fault, and he might have had to sell everything he owned." Of course, Alexander had no idea about any of this. Olivia was eventually taken to the central hospital for treatment. The doctor examined her and said she had broken a bone and needed to rest. After returning home with Benjamin, I couldn't help but sigh to keep Alexander. Olivia was clearly willing to risk her own safety. Only time would tell if her sacrifice would bring the desired outcome. Late at night, as Benjamin held me in his arms, he paused, as if choosing his words carefully, and said, "If you ever find yourself in danger, don't be foolish like Olivia. Stay far away." I looked up at Benjamin, only to meet his gentle gaze. He seemed to know I wouldn't risk my life to save him. "If it were you, I'd go without hesitation," he said firmly. I smiled and smoothed out the furrow in his brow. "Don't say that. We'll both be safe." Before I could finish, his kiss landed, heavy and urgent. In the next moment, his shadow fell over me. Alexander had been at the hospital with her for the past few days. Olivia's social media was also filled with sweet posts, with Alexander in every photo, and the captions always mentioned him. My life was pretty good too. It was rare to see Alexander push me toward brother, and my mood improved slightly. Benjamin even specially decorated a new studio for me. My comic was published again, and this time there was a signing event. Back then, I made a promise with Alexander. "When I hold a signing event, you must come. I want to share this joy with you first." He had said at the time, "Who knows if it will happen, let's talk about it later." But now he was standing at the front of the crowd. I followed the host through the proceedings, and it was about to begin. I walked down from the stage toward the crowd. Alexander took a step forward excitedly, but I brushed past him and threw myself into the arms of the man holding my favorite iris flowers, who reached out to embrace me. Benjamin caught me, spun me around twice, then kissed me. My Emily is truly the best. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Alexander standing nearby. His eyes bloodshot, his knuckles clenched tightly. The day before the wedding was my grandmother's anniversary. Early in the morning, when Benjamin and I arrived at the cemetery, Alexander was already standing by the tombstone. When he saw us approaching, he spoke softly. "I've cleaned everything around Grandma's grave. Thank you." I turned to Benjamin and smiled. "Dear, you must thank your brother properly, of course." Benjamin placed the offerings at the grave, but I had already cleaned it yesterday, so there was no need for him to trouble himself. He tidied my scarf and knelt down with me to pay our respects. In my heart, I told my grandmother, "Benjamin is very kind to me. Tomorrow I will marry him, and I am very happy." Alexander stood aside, clenching his fists, watching us leave hand in hand. I knew Benjamin had tried to stop Alexander from telling me the truth more than once. "Do you think Emily knows the truth? Did you intentionally push her toward her own brother just to seek excitement with her best friend? Will she forgive you? Or will she hate you even more?" Alexander was afraid. He backed down. "But tomorrow is the wedding." He couldn't hold back anymore. As I left the art studio at dusk, Alexander stopped me. "Emily." His eyes were bloodshot, greedily scanning me. I was impatient. "Benjamin, what do you want? Olivia and I are completely over." He suddenly grabbed my wrist and spoke. I struggled free, taking 2 steps back. "This is your business. I have no right to interfere." "Emily, I just wanted to tell you that what happened between Olivia and me was a fateful encounter. It was her. She was the one who kept coming after me." He spoke frantically. "I've already realized it and cut all ties with her." I furrowed my brows. "What's the point of telling me this?" He shook his head urgently. "I wanted to find a better time to tell you, but I can't wait any longer." "Emily, I'm the one for you." I cut him off. "What are you talking about?" "I'm your sister-in-law. Alexander is your brother." "What kind of brother is he?" He suddenly flew into a rage. "He's been plotting this all along, from the very beginning. He's been scheming. I don't want to hear your nonsense. Please leave." I was trying to figure out how to get rid of him when I suddenly saw Benjamin's figure. "Darling." I rushed over immediately. Benjamin hurried forward and embraced me. I buried my face in his chest as if afraid, clutching his clothes tightly. He held me close, glaring at Alexander. "What are you doing?" Alexander glared back. "Do you think throwing a tantrum will get you what you want? Emily is only willing to see you now because she doesn't know your true colors. If you keep acting like this, you'll only make her more afraid. I won't let you get anywhere near her. As for our brotherly bond, it's over." Benjamin shouted harshly, his tone clearly warning and threatening. Alexander froze in place. He understood Benjamin's unspoken meaning. If I reveal the truth, I'll only despise him more. If I persist, Benjamin will ensure I never get near her again. Under Alexander's crimson gaze, I was led away by Benjamin. Once in the car, I turned to look at Benjamin. These past few days, his actions have been too in line with my wishes. It's as if he can read my mind. Every move he makes follows my expectations. It's almost too coincidental. The next morning, the hotel banquet hall had been transformed into a luxurious wedding venue. I was wearing a white wedding dress adorned with countless tiny diamonds. Olivia wanted to see me before the wedding to tell me she had finally let go of everything. After recovering from her injuries, she planned to move abroad and never return. She assured me I didn't need to worry about her revealing the truth. However, her words sounded more like a threat. If I refused to see her, she might expose the truth to the world. When Olivia entered the room, I noticed she was sitting in a wheelchair with her leg in a cast. "Are you really planning to leave again?" I approached her and asked. She smiled at me. "What's the point of staying here in the end? It's all just an empty shell, filled with nothing but sorrow." But I truly poured my heart into Alexander. I shrugged. "As long as you understand." She looked at me with a complex expression. "You're truly admirable. You managed to make both brothers care about you. Now you've gotten what you wanted and will become Mrs. Anderson." I raised an eyebrow at her. "Don't make it sound so wonderful. It's just an empty title. If Alexander truly loved me, how could he betray me? As for Benjamin, who can guarantee he'll never change?" She spoke slowly, her gaze filled with complexity. "Once I thought you were sincere and kind to the world, but now I realize you've always been cautious." I frowned. "You don't need to look at me like that. I just know that loving myself comes first. That's not hard to understand, is it? But you've gotten everything, while I've gotten nothing." Her expression was dazed and filled with sadness. "Why can't you just let it go? Don't get so obsessed with love. With what you've given to Alexander, you could take the money and live comfortably for the rest of your life." She looked at me in confusion. "Don't you hate me? It was I who used my status as your best friend to seduce Alexander. When he argued with you, I became even more gentle and considerate toward him. I even said I didn't care about the outcome, just wanted to be happy. He treated me as well as he once treated you." I shook my head. "Men take advantage of women and then blame them for seducing them. How ridiculous. When I realized you weren't sincere toward me, I stopped considering you my best friend. Otherwise, it would have been a double blow, since I never truly cared for you and you haven't harmed me. What you do is none of my business. The one who betrayed me is always Alexander." Olivia laughed. "I truly envy you." But what did she see? "I still envy you because you got everything I wanted." As she spoke, she suddenly reached out to push me. I was startled and fell to the ground, but I realized her hand was still far away from me. At that moment, Alexander and Benjamin rushed toward me. Benjamin quickly shielded me with his body, while Alexander kicked Olivia's wheelchair, sending it flying. "Ah!" She screamed as she fell to the ground. Alexander saw I was unharmed and raised his fist to strike her. "Stop." She didn't push me. Alexander's fist paused midair. Benjamin bent down to check my body for injuries. Olivia lay on the floor, laughing hysterically. "Emily, after being best friends for so many years, you should have learned something. How could I really hurt you? What do you want?" Alexander glared at her, his voice icy. After Benjamin confirmed I was okay, he shot a menacing glance at the person on the ground. Olivia, tears streaming down her face, looked at Alexander in despair, then burst into maniacal laughter. My heart sank. I knew she was about to reveal everything. "Look at you two brothers." She laughed so hard her shoulders shook. "You've been played by a woman. Emily knew from the start that you two had switched identities." Alexander froze. "You told me how much she loved you." Olivia pointed at me, but she's been fully aware the whole time. "Why did she marry Benjamin?" "Because you betrayed her. And she took advantage of the situation to marry you, brother." She suddenly turned to Benjamin, laughing bitterly. "And you, I don't understand how you could fall in love with your own brother's woman. How many years did she sleep with Alexander? You really think she loved you? It's just because you're rich and powerful. If you went bankrupt, she'd run away faster than anyone else." She lay on the ground, laughing madly. "You two turned against each other over a woman who could abandon you at any moment. Don't you find that ridiculous?" "Shut up," Benjamin shouted angrily. Alexander stood there, pale-faced, the light in his eyes fading. Benjamin glared at Olivia, then lowered his head and spoke softly. "Emily, let's rest for a moment. The wedding is about to begin." I looked up. His expression was calm. His reaction always surprised me. "Haha, Alexander. Dare you ask Emily? Dare you ask her if she knew the truth from the very beginning?" Olivia mocked him self-destructively. Alexander stood there, his eyes dazed yet instinctively avoiding contact. Olivia's question, my silence, some truths were already evident, but he was afraid to confirm that truth. If I really knew everything, it would mean I didn't love him, that I had willingly married Benjamin. "Emily, let's go to another room to rest." Benjamin insisted on taking me away. I looked at Alexander, who was trembling in panic, and didn't move. "Yes, I knew the truth from the very beginning." I spoke calmly. Alexander staggered, trembling as he looked at me. Benjamin only lowered his eyelids, as if he had known all along. Olivia looked at Alexander's expression and laughed through her tears. I continued, "Back then in the hospital, when you denied our relationship and pushed me toward Benjamin, I was actually giving you a chance. But you let your own brother become my fiancé, letting him spend every day with me. You even hugged Olivia and kissed her in front of me, spending lavishly on her, just as you once did for me, so I gave up on you." Alexander trembled violently, stammering, "Emily, I'm sorry, I was wrong, I truly regret it." It was just a moment of confusion. He trembled as he reached out hurriedly. But Benjamin glared at him with a dark, guarded expression, holding me tightly and not letting him come any closer. "Emily, I truly know I was wrong. You're the only one in my heart. The person I've always wanted to marry is you. We can get married right away. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. As long as you forgive me. You love me, don't you?" We were so in love once. Benjamin suddenly pushed his hand away. "Alexander, you should have known better when you betrayed her. A man who has been defiled should be discarded. What right do you have to beg for forgiveness? You were the one who pushed her into my arms. Today is our wedding day, and you don't even deserve to be near me." Hearing Benjamin's words, I suddenly looked up at him. The word dirty, where had I heard it before? And such words shouldn't come from a man's mouth. Suddenly, I remembered what I had said a few days ago on the mountain, and I froze in place. No, it can't be. Emily loves me so much. Alexander collapsed onto the ground. When I had a fever, she would stay up all night wiping me down with alcohol to cool me down. Last year, when I was stranded on a mountain road during a torrential rainstorm, she waited for me at the exit with an umbrella for 3 whole hours. Remember when I had surgery? She stayed by my side for 2 days and 2 nights without sleeping. When the nurse handed her water, her hands were shaking so much she could barely hold the cup. She once said that as long as I was there, she was the happiest person in the world. How could she possibly abandon me? Olivia collapsed on the ground, staring at the dazed Alexander, unsure whether she felt relieved or heartbroken. "Alexander, I once loved you." My tone was calm, but now that love has been completely eroded by you. Before I could finish speaking, I took Benjamin's arm and turned toward the wedding venue. Behind me, Alexander's cries were heart-wrenching. He finally realized that he had lost me completely, with no chance of redemption. The wedding with Benjamin was grand and luxurious. I was very satisfied with the wedding and the groom. After the ceremony, Benjamin took me back to our new villa. He suddenly embraced me, and a warm kiss landed on my forehead. "Emily, I love you. Whether you are the you of the past or the you of the present, I love you." He placed a property transfer agreement in front of me. "I don't ask for your love in its entirety. As long as you can love me as you once loved Alexander, that is enough for me. I will be loyal to you and give you everything." I looked up at him, certain of my decision. "You heard my conversation with Olivia on the mountain that day?" He nodded firmly. I suddenly smiled and signed my name on the contract. All his assets were now in my name. As he leaned down to kiss me, I whispered, "One day, when you have time, I'll draw a sketch of you." He heard this and suddenly hugged me tightly, his voice trembling with excitement. "Okay." This was the second time I had drawn a portrait of a person. The first time was for Alexander. As night fell, I leaned against Benjamin's chest and suddenly understood. When I brought Benjamin home, all his actions were saying. He didn't hate me. He liked me very much. It was only because I had once been his brother's lover that he had always spoken so harshly. But how deep was this love? I wasn't sure. How long would this love last? I wasn't sure either, until that day in his study when I saw a cabinet full of love letters. It turned out he had been writing his undeclared love on sheets of paper all along. Only then did I realize he had been secretly in love with me for so many years. That day, I also realized that he had always loved only me, and he finally got the chance to have me. This is good. I will love him with all my heart. I lay in his arms, burying my face in his neck, listening to his muffled voice, Emily, I love you. From the first time you came to the Anderson house, from that fleeting glance,